First up is Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, and I think we need to dismantle these empires. I think a revolution is needed, between this and Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Like, these are not my Roman Empire. These need to be dismantled at the core. I'm someone who is a fan of this franchise generally. I love when Godzilla is throwing up fire. I enjoyed the first few Kong films to a degree. I think the Godzilla ones are actually kind of more superior. Also, you end up with standouts like Godzilla -1, which shows us that these films can be a bit more than just two giant kaiju/apes. I don't know if Kong falls as a kaiju, but, giant monsters beating things up. But this film just completely reverts to that. And having this on the tails of Godzilla -1 is just like adding insult to injury. I cannot tell you what happened in the last few films in these, and generally they have set them up so you don't need to know, which is semi-problematic. I mean, I get the tactics behind it because it allows an audience to just plug in, although by the time we got to this Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, we may have hit the point of beyond convolution. So I know factually I have seen the prior films in this, but if you asked me to repeat almost any of the plot, if my life depended on it, I could tell you maybe a few things. One, I vaguely remember hollow Earth, that the Earth is hollow in this universe, and it is connected with like a series of portals and tunnels, and Kong lives under there in this weird upside down universe that looks like it's out of Avatar. And let me tell you, some of the monsters in this are so recycled. The plot of this is so recycled, but the monsters, there are ones that look exactly like the James Cameron flying dragon things, the ones that the Avatar ride in the first film. So yeah, there's a hollow Earth. There is Monarch, which is the scientific group that is being led by Rebecca Hall in this, who is, I guess, returning to the franchise. I don't remember her role in the other one. No disrespect to her. Rebecca Hall is a great actress. I hope she collected a wonderful paycheck for this, because that's what this feels like. Brian Tyree Henry is returning. Again, don't particularly remember. He plays like a podcaster/skeptic who, for whatever reason, Monarch, the scientific organization, or Rebecca Hall decides to contact. Dan Stevens is new to the franchise, but they act as if we maybe should know who he is. But everyone is just so replaceable, interchangeable. Like, you could have cast completely new people in this, and I wouldn't remember. And they've made it so you don't care. The only person who is sort of relevant to the plot part of needing to care about them is the return of Kaylee Hoddle. She plays a young woman from a made-up indigenous tribe. She is deaf. She can communicate with Kong. I literally remember going, oh, that's cool, like seeing more representation, etc. And then maybe 20, 30 minutes into the film going, oh, that's right, she was in the other one, because I thought she was a new character. That's the way this film is set up. So you are not here for the humans, right? You're not coming to see Godzilla x Kong for humans. You are here to see your favorite king of the monsters and king of the jungle under the earth go, not even duke it out, but it's tiny spoiler, they duke it out a little bit, but do their thing, right? And I was so bored. I was so bored by this, and I love a good kaiju fight. Like, oh, give me a Pacific Rim fight any day. But very rarely have I thought about leaving a film, like a theatrical release especially, during the film. But I was like, I know how this is going to go because it's predictable. And, I don't think you come to a film like this necessarily because you were expecting innovative plot. But it became so repetitive that I was so bored. And, like, the action is fine, but again, repetitive. It is derivative of other films. At a certain point, this plot tries to steal from Planet of the Apes, and if you didn't have the humans for scale, you would just assume this is a new Planet of the Apes film, because, they are literally having, like, hopefully it's not a spoiler, but, they have these, like, troops of apes, and there's a power struggle between them, and they're all very anthropomorphized and behave like humans in their communication, which, if they are apes who've lived under the ground and, like, they should be able to just grunt at each other and understand each other. But because we're trying to convey this for us, the modern human audience, they give them very people-like mannerisms. And so then it just becomes Planet of the Apes, and Planet of the Apes is doing it so much better nowadays. So That part was not working for me. The gobbledygook of tracking Godzilla, etc., is very boring. And also, there's so much expositional dialogue in this. Like, every conversation is a monologue of an update. And I'm just like, show me, don't tell me. Always a delight to see Godzilla, but would rather just see him in Godzilla -1. It felt like a waste of my time. It's a movie I have seen now, and I cannot even in good conscience recommend it to people who love this type of film, because I love this type of film. If you see it and you enjoy it, more power to you. I see that people are generally being responsive to it, and I think it's fine if you go and enjoy it. I have said my piece on it. If you were someone who's on the fence, this review is probably much more for you, and I say, skip it. Do not see this film. I cannot in good conscience suggest going to see this film. I think about my parents who don't go to the movies that often. They love movies and they usually wait for them at home, etc. And I, will have to say to them, and they're always looking for something new to watch. I will have to say to them, do not watch this film. It is a waste of your time. You do not get this time back from your life. I instead suggest you just watch Godzilla -1 at least a few times. That is a far superior film to whatever this hot mess they've given us is. And, even leaning on fan service, even leaning on any of this, it just wasn't enough. And so my hope is that maybe we get a reset on this empire. Also, what is there left to conquer at this point? They're clearly, I'm sorry, from the title, gonna, buddy up at some point, because it's not Godzilla versus Kong. So where are we supposed to go from here? Yeah, I did not have a pleasant time at this film. It was such a bummer for me because, again, I was stoked for it going in. I am only going to give this a 1.5 out of 5. The next film I have is called Wicked Little Letters, and it is infinitely smaller in scope than Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, but it does have 2 titans of the screen, or at least 1 titan of the screen and 1 upcoming titan of the screen in terms of real life. It stars Olivia Colman as a character called Edith Swan and Jessie Buckley as her neighbor called Rose Gooding. Olivia Colman is a very sort of uptight, prim and proper, I don't want to say spinster, however, it is a word that the film uses. She lives at home with her father, played by Timothy Spall, and I do have to say, I was like, is Timothy Spall old enough to be playing her dad? And he's 17 years older than her, but, it's a take it or leave it. British actors, etc. Jessie Buckley plays her neighbor, who is this Irish, fiery woman, of course, because you have to use that adjective, I guess, who moves in next door. She is a single mother with a young daughter and, shakes up the neighborhood a little bit. And then these very foul letters start to appear, aimed at Olivia Colman, accusing her of just horrific things. And so it becomes this sort of witch hunt to see who did it, and things ensue. And, this is not a large scope film, like I said. Do you need to see this in a theater? With all due respect, potentially not, if you love the theater experience, this is perfectly fine to see it in a theater. It is not necessarily like you need to hear it in Dolby, IMAX, etc., whatever. But this film is buoyed by their performances, and, it's not the most innovative thing ever. However, you can tell that they are having fun doing it, or at least that Olivia Colman is having fun doing it. And when Olivia Colman is having fun doing something, you understand why she is who she is. She is able to pull off just such subtlety in her performance, and she's just chewing on some of the things that they have her say in such a delightful way. The film, at its core, probably is also about, it takes place in the 1920s, and it's about female status in society and the expectations on them. There is a female police officer, and I add the female part because they add the female part, played by Anjana Vasan, who I've actually seen in a few other things. I always think she is a delight. She is in a Black Mirror episode. She's in We Are Lady Parts, which is a series that I highly recommend. The commentary part is there. It's good. It's satisfying. The resolutions are satisfying, certainly. It is interesting that this film casts a bunch of people of color in it, but doesn't really acknowledge that. It's more about the gender dynamics than, say, race dynamics, which, we can't tackle everything in every film, but I think it does a decent job of still bringing up and providing commentary on the issues we face today, which is sad, right? Because it's 100 years later and it's still relevant. And, even setting it then, it's not like, look how antiquated they were. It's more of this is still an issue to this day. So I enjoy the film. I think it could be a fun, comfy, cozy, rainy day watch, honestly. If you are a huge Olivia Colman fan, have at. This is going to be a delight for you. Jessie Buckley continues to show that she is just an heir to a throne, a British acting throne. And it's funny because Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley have played, they were in The Lost Daughter in 2021, and they played, the same character at different stages of their life. And so it is funny to see them now in this antagonistic role against each other. So I think clearly, they have a good chemistry. It shows on screen. They're both excellent actors. Again, I had a good time and a much better time than at something like Godzilla X Kong. So I'm going to give this a 3.7 out of 5.